Welcome back. We are now again just looking at Revelation 6, and we've come to the second seal, the second horse. The first horse we could clearly see was the start of things. It was the opening of God's master plan. It refers to Adam. So what would the second horse show us? Let us read. When he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature saying, "Come and see." Another horse, fiery red, went out. It was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, that people should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword. Very interesting that the living creatures, they're not mentioned in which one, because the gospel must be contained in each one of these revelations, even if it's just subtly so, because it refers to the character and revelation of who Jesus is and what he had accomplished. So if we were right in our first assessment of the first rider, then the second seal should naturally flow and explain to us what happened after Adam and Eve were established. And it does. The second horse and rider confirms the true meaning of the white horse and his rider. The second horse was fiery and red. Now, fire speaks of judgment, and red represents blood and covenant at times. And the fiery red really refers to a judgment that involved the first shedding of blood, in other words. When God then clothed Adam and Eve with garments of skin, implying the sacrificial death of an animal. But it's preceded by judgment. So this image moves us from Adam's time of innocence into the time when sin and death entered into the eternal plan. The rider had a great sword and took peace away from the earth. When there is no peace, it means that there is death, and that people should kill one another. Very, very importantly. In other words, the harmony, those harps that harmonize with God and his plan, is not there anymore. The great sword is still actually the smaller sword used in Greek, but the word great here refers to being very effective in its application. In other words, even though in a sense it was a small thing, it had a huge effect upon anyone who suffered under its judgment. The one who took peace from the earth effectively, in a passive way but still did it, was the serpent, the devil, the one who comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And he deceived Adam and Eve, and therefore, because Adam and Eve listened to the serpent, having eaten of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they became enslaved to that tree. They had to now live up to understanding what good and evil is. And when we later see that the tree of knowledge of good and evil actually refers to God himself, because he is the only living being that perfectly understands good and evil. So we were made subject there to actually realize that we cannot live in the perfection that is expected of us when we actually partake of God. So that great sword had authority to rule, oppress, and contain what was given to him. And this reminds us really of what the devil said to Jesus. "Fall down and worship me, and to you I will give all this authority and their glory, for it has been delivered to me, and I will give it to whom I will." If we go back, we see it says, "And a great sword was given to him." In that sense, it implies he didn't have it, but now he has it. So we know that Satan was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth. So there's no peace here. Man's spiritual and physical death entered the world through the serpent's deception. So the dominion of this world age was delivered to him at that time, because Adam and Eve submitted themselves to his guidance and actively disobeyed God's instruction. And it is through sin that the devil wields this sword. And it was due to envy and pride that physical death entered our world, because Adam and Eve said, oh, we'll be like God. That's what the enemy implied. And yet when it all came to light, ironically, Adam had a stab at God. He started blaming God and the wife that God had given him, Eve. And Eve had a stab at the serpent. She accused the serpent. And the effect of that is that in the next step, Cain slew Abel and people started killing each other. And here we have the fulfillment of that second seal. But there's something we need to take on board here which is really important, and that is the blood of the first animal was also closely followed by the blood of Abel. This death is not only physical but spiritual and emotional too for all of us. And we must understand that all lies, all deception will take from people's lives. Gossip kills people's character, and the lack of mercy or forgiveness condemns and maims all involved, even the person enacting it. And these attitudes and actions are actually included here within the fall, because it's so important to just go back and say that people should kill one another. So it's not just a matter that they take a sword and kill one another physically, they also do so emotionally and spiritually. So sin is a very powerful and authoritative sword in the hand of the one who wields it, especially the accuser. So our words are subsequently seen later in Scripture as a two-edged sword as well, proceeding out of our mouths. So we must be very careful how we wield the swords that we have received. Do we speak life? Do we align ourselves with God, or do we align ourselves with the rider on the red horse? There is something very beautiful that's sort of hinted here or intimated. The red or blood intimates and includes the common grace that God bestowed on mankind. There is something about covenant here, a fiery red covenant hidden in here, that God slew the lamb. He was the first one to take a life, to make clothes or a temporary covering for Adam and Eve. And he did something else as well. He put enmity between the man and the serpent, and that's what we call common grace. So we will not want to cooperate out of our natural being with the serpent and his entourage. Cooperating with the enemy will not sit well with people who do not have their consciences seared. So now we're ready to look at the other horses that must come along. So this age comes to its fulfillment. How will the other horses not only confirm this progression, but also teach us more about what Jesus had done for us and who he is? Blessings until next time.